everybody, and welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name is Joy, and this is
Tim. Yay! Look at that, Joy. We mixed it up.
all right. And as always, we're going to start the day off with our tip of the day, and I will let Tim go first.
Okay, so my tip of the day is reasonably specific, but it's general advice for the music lover. Now, if you are into this whole vinyl world and you're buying vinyl records and you've got a turntable, you probably already know all this stuff. But let's just say that you've been into Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Walmart, Target, wherever you are, Woolworths, wherever you shop in the world, and you will have seen racks of these records, and you're thinking of getting involved, dipping your feet in. I would say don't. And I tell you for why. I say don't, but if it's something that you think you're going to enjoy and it's a hobby, and it's fine. But if you're on the fence, I would say don't. And this is why. This is my rationale. These are my tips or general advice. One, the records are incredibly expensive. And in the last year or two, they've got stupid expensive. They've gone from being $16, $17 US to somewhere near 40 a piece. So they've got incredibly expensive. Two, they're becoming hard to find because of production issues, not necessarily pandemic related, but just that all the record pressing plants are working at top capacity and can't make them quick enough.
No.
The second or third thing, depending on how you want to say it, the quality is terrible. Like, they're making them so quick, they're not quality checking them. So when you play them, they crackle. The hole isn't not in the dead.
Warped.
Yeah, warped. The hole's not in the dead center. They jump. Something brand new you pay $45 for, and it's a poor quality product. And the last point. There was a golden era a few years ago where you could buy this stuff used for next to nothing. All the good stuff has gone. All you're going to find is like Christmas albums and junk in thrift shops. Or if you find stuff used, it's going to be incredibly overpriced. So I'm just giving some general advice going in. If all of those things appeal to you, get yourself a record player. Enjoy it. It's great. Get the big artwork, collect things, support your artists. It's all great. But if you're on the fence and you're thinking of dipping your little toes into that world, take my advice, give it a miss.
I mean, and to be fair, I have had my fair of experiences. That's what I meant to say. My share of experiences in the same way. One of the first albums that I bought that was new, because I bought a lot of secondhand albums, as you would imagine. I've talked to Tim about this. I got into the album realm like everybody else in this generation. And one of the saddest ones was I bought the new Guardians of the Galaxy, which Tim even knows it's a good soundtrack, and it even had all the instrumentals. Brought it home, it was warped, just like completely warped, brand new, $30 later. Dual, it had two records on it. I was so sad because I was like, and then I noticed, and I asked Tim about this, the albums you buy now that are more modern, they're much thinner in quality. Like the actual material is cheaper.
Yeah, because they literally can't make them quick enough. I mean, some of them are 180 gram, which is a thicker material, but they said it's just the quality is not there. It's fine if you're just buying it just to have something cool and you're going to put it on your shelf and you want to support an artist. That's fine. But if you're buying it from somebody like myself who likes to buy that stuff and actually use it and enjoy it and listen to it, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get something brand new that costs $30 that's warped. Exactly.
And I love the idea of listening to vinyl, but honestly, I'm going to say something controversial. Don't come for me, internet. I don't always think it sounds better.
It depends. I've got CDs that sound amazing, and I've got CDs that sound terrible. I've got records that sound like the best thing I've ever heard in my life, and records that sound appalling. Like I've got Daft Punk's Random Access Memories on a twin vinyl set. And that is the best I've ever heard that. I've heard the CD, I've heard the digital files, everything. You put that on, whoever mixed, mastered, and engineered that and pressed it knew exactly what they were doing. However, it did take me 2 attempts to get a good copy from Amazon. But my second copy sounds great.
And the one that I'm going to say is cliche that I actually think sounds better on vinyl. And I hate to say it because it makes me sound kind of like, oh, of course she would say that. It's actually, I will say The Wall, like Pink Floyd on vinyl sounds really good.
Yeah, especially if it's an original pressing. So it'll
It
be analog,
was.
analog, analog, analog. That's the other thing, is that anything you get now, even a classic album, if it's a repress, it comes from a digital source. So it's almost the same as buying a CD or a digital file, because that's where its origins from. It's not like it's sort of analog in the studio, analog to tape, analog to the pressing plant, and then analog to your home. It gets turned to digital. So what's the difference?
Exactly. And I will say that one was one that I went on eBay, searched long and hard. The whole album, the actual like album cover was in terrible condition, but I was hopeful, put it on, and it was fantastic. It's such a like album that I think when you have to listen from all the way from A to Z, right? You need to hear it from the beginning to the end, and it's very encompassing. That's one. And I do like my Dolly albums because I've got a lot of Dolly Parton albums and I'm partial to them. But overall, I'm not one that automatically assumes that vinyl is going to sound better.
No, like I said, I've bought some used stuff that was out, whenever it came out in the 70s or the 60s or whatever, and you play it on a nice turntable, and it does sound absolutely amazing. But as I said, equally, I've got CDs I've bought that sound absolutely amazing. So it's almost like the medium is almost irrelevant. And it's fair to say that for most people who haven't spent multiple $1,000s on turntables, in most instances, a digital file or a CD will probably sound better than your record player. Now, that's probably a controversial thing, and people listening to this go, no, how can you say that?
I know, Tim, we're going to get canceled.
Yeah. But, if you have a really nice turntable and a nice system and nice speakers and stuff like that, you can get some amazing sounds out of a turntable. And as I said, I have records that sound significantly better than CDs in my collection. And that's just how it is. But for most people who are going to buy a Crosley or a very low-end turntable, your digital file, your CD, is probably going to sound better than your record version.
Well, Dar, there's our hot take for the day. Me and Tim, if we still have a podcast next week, we'll see you next Wednesday. All right, well.
But if I can just tail end this tip, as I said, if you enjoy that, it's fine. If you probably already understand that if you're already enjoying it, or if you want to get into it and you think it's going to bring you a lot of joy and happiness, do it. I'm not stopping you.
I don't care. Just do what you're going to do, boo.
And yeah, if you think you're going to enjoy it, please do it and have fun with it and collect them and play them and all that kind of stuff. But these are just my experiences dipping my toes into the vinyl world, and I'm currently retreating away from the vinyl world and eBaying some of that stuff. Or actually, to be fair, most of that stuff. Though I'm keeping my Bucks Fizz album and not taking that away, or my 5-star album. That's going nowhere.
Tim's going to buy a new couch here soon, guys. Everybody.
I'm about 5 gigs away from buying a new couch. I'll be reporting back when I have it.
Well, that'll be the Instagram post for the week. Tim got the new couch.
I mean,
anyway.
I'm going to buy this couch with rock and roll proceeds. I mean, how many other people are going to have a L-shaped sectional that was bought exclusively from rock and roll?
I mean, do what you got to do. All right. So my tip of the day is, okay, let me preface this by saying Charlie broke a glass in my kitchen on Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Wednesday and or Thursday. On Friday night, very late into the night, I was up late having fun, doing as people do. Mm-hmm. I was walking around my kitchen and stepped on a piece of glass after Charlie had very scrupulously, and Charlie has like really good eyesight. It's very weird. Thought he got rid of all of it. But of course, my foot found the one piece of glass that was left there. So moral story is, when you break a glass in your kitchen, wear shoes for at least a week in your kitchen. Don't think 2 to 3 days is enough, if you're me, to make that a normal time frame. I ended up having to go the next morning, Saturday morning at 7 a.m. and get 3 stitches in the bottom of my foot because it would not stop bleeding. It didn't just cut me, it sliced me. And I can't stress enough, the one place you don't want stitches is on the bottom of your foot. It is as bad as you think.
Yeah, I mean, you told me about this when it happened, and I was just thinking how incredibly painful that was. And I remember as a kid being at the seaside in the sea and then cutting your foot, just a scrape, and how incredibly painful that is. And I can't imagine what it's like literally slicing the bottom of your foot open with a piece of glass from your kitchen.
Yeah. So I did, of course, I did it on the ball of my foot. So it's like where you put all the pressure on. So I am very lucky. I do a thing where I have a doctor who provides me urgent care and all this kind of stuff. So I never really, unless like I have a heart attack or something, have to, dress like an ER or something, which is good because ERs in America are very expensive. So anyway, I contacted my doctor. I had bled through the bandage over and over and over from like 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. I was in pain, all these things. So he looked at it. He put 3 little stitches in them. I got the stitches removed today. So that was good. Mm-hmm. It healed up okay. The thing is there was also the factor of it's on the bottom of your foot, infection, they had to do all the work. But yeah, my tip of the day is do everything you can, because I've had many injuries, as you guys are aware. I've had stitches in my arm. I've had stitches in my leg. I've had stitches in my stomach from various things, anything from a mole to like an actual injury, right? It's not my first rodeo with stitches. This, by and large, 3 stitches on the bottom of my foot, way more painful than any other place I've gotten a stitch. And I have tattoos and piercings. Can't stress this enough. Don't get stitches on the bottom of your foot. That's my tip of the day.
Yeah, it's like I want to wrap you in bubble wrap, Joy, and before you go out into the world. But then like you're in your own home and it happens. So I'm completely at a loss. Though I did say one thing that you should get some clogs for your house.
Specifically, Brian Mack clogs.
Yeah, in fact, I'm gonna show you now. Hang on a second. This is what you want to get, Joy.
Wearing the clogs.
And you want to get a Tofflen Scandinavian Comfort Classic Clog Anti-Static in white.
Okay.
And that is the Brian May approved Talisman of Tone clog.
We are not sponsored.
No, but if our friends at Tofflen Classic Clog want to sponsor our podcast, I'd be happy to do that.
We would love that. But just duly note, we are not sponsored. We're just recommending options. But to be fair, I am generally someone who goes barefoot, but I have taken to slippers now, and maybe I just need to live that life. But I mean, this wasn't, and this is the dumb part. This happened once before. I broke a glass, or Charlie broke a glass, or no matter how many years you live, every once in a while you break something glass in your kitchen. Like, it just happens. Sure. This is maybe 3, 4, 5 years back. Somebody knocked something off the counter and it broke. Fine, we cleaned it up, moved on with our lives. Not a big deal. Well, my foot found a piece a week later, and it got stuck in my foot, and a doctor had to dig it out. Ew. Because it like embedded. It didn't have to have stitches that time because it didn't really slice, it just like stuck in my foot. And I'm like, ow, why does this hurt so bad? But it was literally a week later. I don't know how my feet find the one little slither that makes no sense. Okay, well, now that I've literally freaked everybody out and they don't want to think about pieces of glass going into their feet, I'm going to go to the topic.
So what you got for us, Joy? What's this week's topic?
This week's topic is the top songs by every decade.
Oh, okay. So,
I looked at the different songs from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and today, and we're just going to talk about them, what they made me think of, and see if maybe that's kind of what you figured it would be. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I've got something that gives you about the top 10 songs of every decade. Obviously, we will have time to talk about all of them. We're just going to hit the highlights, and then me and Tim will do what we do and somehow talk about how to iron your T-shirt tomorrow or whatever. Anyway. So weird thing was, I started in the 1940s. I didn't really feel like we need to go further back than that, right?
I tell you, I'm a big fan of the 30s. I tell you, there was some rockin' music back then.
Well, you know what the top song in the 1930s was? It's Judy Garland's "Over the Rainbow" from The Wizard of Oz. So there you go. I mean, that's obvious. Also, I think it's funny that Ella Fitzgerald song "A Tisket, a Tasket" was in the net. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. So that was for the 1930s, but the 1940s top hit was, and this seems to be a ongoing trend in the 1940s, was Bing Crosby with the Derby Singers' "White Christmas."
Yeah, and that's one of those songs that even though it's from the 1940s, in 2022, Christmas 2022, people are still going to be playing that, and people are still going to think it's a classic Christmas song, yet it is 80 plus years old at this point.
Well, here's the crazy thing. Number 3 was Glenn Autry's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which is still a hit today.
Yeah.
And then number 6 was Nat King Cole's The Christmas Song, or Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire, as it's normally known.
Wow. It's funny to think that stuff is from the 1940s. Yeah. As I said, you get like a compilation album or a Spotify playlist of Christmas classics for Christmas 2022. All those songs are going to be on it.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to me because I'm like, I don't know. I guess 1940s is the height of Christmas music. I'm not sure. Maybe it was White Christmas was from the movie White Christmas. I would imagine. Maybe there was a lot of Christmas movies during this time. I'm not sure. Number 2, and I am not familiar with this song, and maybe Tim is, so don't come from the internet. I have no idea who Artie Shaw is. It's a song called Stardust.
Yeah, that was
doesn't ring a bell.
No.
And then there's a song called Chattanooga Choo Choo, which I have heard, but I wouldn't know who Glenn Miller with the Tex Bennett and the Four Mandarins was.
Oh, I've heard of Glenn Miller. He's a big band leader.
I've heard the song, the Chattanooga Choo Choo, before, which that was when Big Band was in, so that makes sense. And then, of course, Doris Day. We do know who she is. It's Sentimental Journey by Doris Day, and then it's Tommy Dorsey with Frank Sinatra and the Pipe Poppers, I'll Never Smile Again, which I am familiar with that song. And then Cliff Edwards, When You Wish Upon a Star, and Duke Ellington's Take the A Train.
Yeah, and I've heard that song before.
I have, and a lot of those names are very familiar. It's just I couldn't tell you who Artie Shaw was. And maybe we do know this all. We'll give you play. You know what I mean, Tim?
Sure.
We just don't know we know it. So going into the 50s, these are going to become more familiar, right? The number 1 song in the 1950s, just across the board, was Billie Holiday and the Comets, We're Gonna Rock Around the Clock.
Yeah, rock. I mean, that is a classic song from Bill Haley and the Comets. I mean, I think Bill Haley had other hits, but he's known for being the rock around the clock guy.
And I'm gonna come in as here. So when I was in show choir, somehow that song ended up in our spring choreography occasionally. And what's interesting with that song, gonna rock around the clock. It's a 4 count. It's a very classic box step 4 count. And I can't tell you how many times I've done right foot, cross, left foot. Like if anybody who's ever been in show choir can tell you how many times that what is it called? Jazz square comes up, right? A jazz square is what it's called. And somehow I've done that to We're Gonna Rock Around the Clock at least 70,000 times. That and Jingle Bells. I don't know what it is. Anyone who ever designs choreography for We're Gonna Rock Around the Clock or Jingle Bells, it's always that jazz square on repeat. So, I don't know. So then another one that's pretty familiar. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but I do know the song. It's Mack the Knife, but it's Bobby Darin. Is that right?
Yeah, Bobby Darin. So, okay. I mean, Frank Sinatra famously covered Mack the Knife, but it is a Bobby Darin song. I'm not really sure what Mack the Knife is about because it's got shark and something else, and I
always thought it was about sharks. I mean, was I supposed to think it was about something else? I don't know.
I mean, that shark there, and got his teeth there, and they're pearly white. I don't know what the actual meaning of that song is.
I mean, but then it says just get a jackknife. And his old Mack Heath or something. I don't know. It's weird words after that. But I kind of always thought it was about a shark. But now I'm wondering, was there a commercial in my childhood where they were selling seafood or something and there was a shark and Mack the Knife was playing? And that's why I think that.
It's possible. I've never really given the thought of the lyrics of Mack the Knife a great deal of thought. Well, I love Frank Sinatra and I love some of the big band standards that he did.
Wait a second, though. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Doesn't it say something at the end about Mackey's back in town?
Yeah.
Is the shark back in town, or is Mackey a gangster?
He could be. He could be a gangster.
Which would make sense why I was saying, conspiracy theory here, which would make sense why Frank Sinatra picked it up.
That's true, because he was chairman of the board, as they say.
He was. And I cut Tim off mid-theory sentence, but it dealt on me. The last thing about it is something about Mackey's back in town or, something like the boy is back in town or something.
Yeah, because if you say Mack the knife, suggests that maybe Mack is some kind of gangster character who has a knife. And then, like, you're using the metaphor for saying that he is a shark with his pearly white teeth. I don't know.
Now I'm disappointed because I thought it was about sharks. I swear there had to be like some commercial when I was a kid, and it was like advertising like tuna or something. You know what I mean? And there was a shark, and that's why I think Mack the knife was about a shark. But then I've never thought about it really.
Maybe we need an offshoot podcast where we deep dive into songs that we don't really know what they're about and then form our own theories.
What a revelation me and Tim just had. Maybe it's about gangsters. We're bringing you the hot topic from what year? 1959.
I tell you, this is top quality stuff here.
Okay, anyway, there's literally someone screaming at us going, okay, dummies, of course it's about. Anyway, so the funny thing is back to the 50s. That was number 1 and number 2. So from number 3 to number 6, think of one artist who was super popular in the 50s, Tim.
Could it be Elvis Aaron Presley?
It was.
Yay.
So it's Heartbroken Hotel, Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, and then Jailhouse Rock.
All of them stone cold Elvis classics.
And those are like I feel like his main songs. Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe Suspicious Minds is up there. But like I feel like those are the songs people know from Elvis.
Yeah, I mean that's from the initial classic Elvis era, and of course later on you get the Wonder of You and all that kind of stuff.
But what's crazy about it is Heartbroken Hotel was 1956. Hound Dog was 1956. Don't Be Cruel was 1956. So those were probably all 3 on the same album, I would assume. And then Jailhouse Rock was 1957. Like he was just static hit after hit after hit, kind of like we were talking about on the Beatles episode. Mm-hmm. Just one right after the other, knocking it out.
Well, you know, Colonel Tom Parker had him working. That's what it was. The Colonel wanted his 71% share of the Elvis money or whatever it was.
And, you know, it's crazy if you think about this. This was because, you know, Elvis went to Vietnam. So my dad's a Vietnam veteran and like I'm very familiar with the time frame. This was pre-Vietnam. So he was really famous, already had this many hits and still chose to go to Vietnam.
I thought he was drafted. I didn't think he had
Well, I think he could have got out of the draft was the thing. He had an out and he chose to take it.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think he did any long tours in Vietnam. I think he was discharged because it was hard having Elvis in the army.
I would imagine people probably want to I don't know. I've never heard that specifically. I just know it was a big deal that he could have easily, because, you know, if you're in the middle, if you have like a career issue or you have, well, for our non-American friends or anybody who isn't familiar with the American draft, like if you were going to college or, which is why, like, you know, like think like CCR, you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth. That's how you got out of getting drafted. Those type, you know, statements are made. Or if you had like a long-term career, or maybe you just had a baby, you could easily get out of your draft card. It was known. And so I think the thing with him was that he chose to go. Now, whether I thought he did, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought he did 2 tours, but maybe I've heard that wrong. I
mean, you could be right. I mean, I've never really looked much into the military career of Elvis. I mean, I've been to Graceland a couple of times and I'm familiar with his music, and I've seen his Vegas white suits on display in his racquetball court, but I don't really know much about his military career.
So here we go. We have this thing called Google. Gave it a Goog, everybody. He served in the United States Army from 1958 to 1960, so he was there for 2 years.
There we go. I take it all back.
And he was also offered the chance to enlist in special services. Oh, no, despite being offered the chance to enlist in special services, where all he was going to have to do is entertain the troops. So they gave him an option to not have to go to the war front. He chose to go.
Oh, well, good on you, Elvis.
Yeah, but what I was getting at, and what's crazy is these songs would have been pre-Vietnam. So he was already this famous when he went. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy.
Would you look at that?
Not that this is like a historical knowledge podcast. We at Tim don't know anything about that.
Well, we know some things, but it's mostly, you know, who was in episode 14 of Charlie's Angels, not like anything that anyone wants to know.
No. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, basically. We can tell you what the bass line was in that song, but that's about it.
That's about you lot.
Okay, so number 7 was Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. Shocking, not. Patty Page's Tennessee Waltz. Ray Charles's What I'd Say, and then the Everly Brothers, All You Have to Do Is Dream.
Fabulous. And if I could just say, like, Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. I mean, you people talk about influential guitar players, and people talk of Jimi Hendrix, and they talk of, insert your favorite guitar player here as being the most influential, etc. It all starts with Chuck Berry, because if it wasn't for Chuck Berry and Johnny Be Good, there would be no rock and roll guitar. There would be no guitar being the thing. It starts with him. It just 100% starts with him.
And he kind of had, okay, this is going to sound weird, but just hear me out. He had the swagger and the mentality that I think led into the rock stars that we know.
Well, 100%, yeah.
Like that stagemanship mattered.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, his attitude, the way he approached the stage, the way he entertained, the music that he created, being the guitar hero, etc. All starts with Chuck Berry.
I know, and that's just, and so like and he's just so showmanship. If you've never actually went back, and maybe this is what we'll post on the Make a Note, Tim, we'll find an old school video of him performing back in the day. He just had a very aura around him that I think is just as important, if not as important, as playing your guitar to become, because, and Tim, this as well as I do, at least 50% of becoming a famous musician is about having an it factor.
Yeah.
Right. It does make the difference if you can't command a stage, because I've seen concerts where it's obviously the person couldn't command a stage, and it makes a difference for the audience member. Like it can be boring. Yeah, the music's good. Yeah, they sound good. But if you can't command a stage and put out a presence, you just don't last long in the industry.
No, and it's like I saw Van Halen with David Lee Roth on their last couple of tours. I think it was 2012, and I saw them in 2007 and 2008, and that was not long after David Lee Roth rejoined Van Halen. Now, certainly by 2012, David Lee Roth's voice was not good. I mean, he was never the greatest singer on record, but certainly in his senior years, his voice is shot. He is not a good singer. And certainly the tours they did just before we lost Eddie Van Halen, the vocals were not good at all. But certainly in 2012, his vocals were poor. However, he commands that stage. He owns that stage. He is the party. He is the guy you want to be watching. He is the ringmaster. He's everything. And the fact that he's not a good singer is almost irrelevant because he's David Lee Roth.
I agree. And that makes all the difference in the world. It really does. So we're going to go to the 60s. Now, Tim, I imagine you can guess 2 bands that appear on this quite a bit.
It would be the Searchers and Billy J. Kramer.
Yes, you nailed it, Tim. Who do you think is number 1, though?
I would say it would be the Beatles.
Sadly, that's what everybody would assume, but it's actually the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow.
So the Beatles are number 2, and they're on the list in other places. But it's I Can't Get No Satisfaction from the Rolling Stones.
Can I give you an interesting, geeky, fun fact about Satisfaction?
Go for it.
It's probably the first ever instance of somebody using a fuzz tone effect on a guitar. And it is a Gibson Maestro fuzz unit being used by Keith Richards for that. Bam, 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 bam.
What does the fuzz unit actually do?
Well, like when you play guitar, typically you want your amplifier to sound distorted. So in most instances, if you have like a radio and you turn it up and it starts distorting, it sounds terrible. But on electric guitar, you want the sound to be distorted because that is the sound of rock, where it goes ka-chang.
But it also makes the chords connect and stuff, I would imagine.
Yeah, it rings and harmonics and all that kind of stuff. A fuzz tone is a type of distortion, but it's a square wave clipping, meaning that it's not necessarily always a pleasant distorted sound that rings and all these harmonics come out. It's odd harmonics in a square wave thing where it's clipping. And it gives a very distinct kind of sound. And that fuzz tone is what you hear on Satisfaction. Now, other guitar players have used fuzz tones and different variations of it, but certainly, mostly for most people, the first recorded instance of it is that riff in Satisfaction.
Interesting. I mean, I wouldn't have known that at all, but okay.
Let
I'll
me tell
take
you,
your
I'm full
word.
of useless guitar facts that will bore nearly all of our audience.
I mean, at least you know it, Tim. Nah, I'm kidding. It's very interesting though, because like I mean, I was interested to know what difference that makes, and it makes sense though because, and this is going to sound very small. Well, I actually know this in an instance with piano too. When you're learning to play, one thing that happens, like when I learned to play the piano, and now that I'm learning the ukulele, there's a distinct difference between a choppy player and a when it starts to flow.
Mhm.
And when it starts to flow and you get that kind of like long spin, you were talking about like a distortion almost, that's when things start connecting. Like
Mhm.
what people are not getting. So when I play really well on the ukulele, you can tell because it doesn't sound choppy anymore. The things are connecting and one note is ringing and connecting with the next. If you don't have that, it doesn't sound right. So I would imagine that kind of plays into the distortion thing on top of just sounding like rock and roll. So anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So the number two is the Beatles' Hey Jude. No shocker there.
No, I mean that is a. Would you consider that a power ballad, maybe, or is that a different thing?
I always feel like Hey Jude in my mind is almost like acoustic.
You know, it starts off, but I mean, at the end where it's all building up
Yeah,
and then they're all
that's true.
singing, and is it almost the first instance of a power ballad, sort of?
Kind of. I mean, it's very built on that kumbaya, let's all get together, intense choir kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to tell, but it could be. I can't think of anything because even like if you think of okay, this is a weird instance, but like a prayer from Madonna kind of plays on that whole slow, almost acoustic intro, and then you build and you get that harmonic, like you're saying, like a power battle in the background. So it's same kind of staging for a song, maybe.
Sure, and I love Like a Prayer. That is a great song, and
That is my
Guy Pratt
favorite.
plays bass on that, and he's the guy who played with Pink Floyd towards the end of their run.
That is my favorite, my all-time favorite Madonna song. Just saying.
Yeah, I would agree. That is a fantastic song. I remember when it came out.
But you see what I'm saying, though, how it's the same kind of build that you're talking about.
It's exactly the same thing. It starts. I mean, that's a little bit more up tempo at the beginning, but yes,
Well,
at the
yeah.
end you've got the choir going, and it's building and building and building. Yes.
But I mean, there's probably a few other instances. That's just the first one that comes to mind. Number three is a song that I hate to say this, I'm kind of burnt on. I love this song and I loved it back in the day as a Motown person, but I've heard it so many times now. It's Marvin Gaye's I Heard It Through the Grapevine.
Yeah, this is a great song. It's an iconic song. It's a legendary song. But as you say, it's easy to get burnt out on it because TV commercials have used it. Every film has used it. Every TV
Those
show
little
has used it.
raisins you used it. Do you ever see the raisins, the California raisins? Or is that an American thing?
I'm fully aware of the California
Okay,
raisins.
good.
And let me tell you why I'm fully aware of the California raisins. Because
Okay.
every Christmas, we watch Claymation Christmas. And Claymation Christmas is like one of these shows that we have. We have about 10 or 12 TV shows that we watch every year.
I know what you're talking about because Charlie made me watch it this year.
Yeah, it's one of Hannah's favorites, and it's one that we watch every single year. And there's a section in it where they have the California raisins. And I listened to another podcast, which is actually another one I would recommend, called Bizarre Albums.
Okay.
And they did a whole thing about the California raisins.
Dang,
And
they took my next topic.
yeah. And the California raisins, not only were they advertising raisins, but it became an entire cultural phenomenon type thing.
Yes. So one thing I distinctly remember growing up in America in the time of the California raisins was, you know, like when in the summer when people put those sun visors up in their window and there's always a picture.
Mm-hmm.
There was a very distinct few summers where every picture was the California raisins in people's cars. I don't know why. That's just what it was. And they did a version of Heard It Through the Grapevine.
Yeah. I'm sure that they were in everyone's cars because they were being sold in Walmart or something.
Yeah, it was probably cheap. But anyway, I just remember that being a thing. So I'm going to, just because of time, I'm going to run through the next few songs. And then we can talk about number 4 is Aretha Franklin, Respect. The Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Mm-hmm.
The Beach Boys, Good Vibrations. Every one of these is just hit after hit after hit. The
Sure.
60s were a good time for music, guys. The Beatles, Yesterday. Bob Dylan, Like a Rolling Stone. my personal favorite, Otis Redding, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, and The Animals, The House of the Rising Sun, which is also a karaoke go-to for me.
Exactly. Do you want to know a fun fact about House of the Rising Sun?
What's that?
It was recorded in the last 10 minutes of a session. They used to do it as a warm-up song. It's not their song. It's like a traditional song. And they had 10 minutes left in their recording session and then just enough tape to record it. And they said, oh, why don't we just record that and see what happens? We always play that as sound check. Boom!
Because it's like a almost like a known song out of like certain areas. I know what you're talking about. It wasn't their song directly.
No, it's
the one who made it bigger.
Yeah, it's a traditional type song.
But it's their version though, and I'm one of those people. I've had a lot of friends. Seems to be one, and maybe Tim can shed light on this. I haven't looked on the ukulele, but a lot of my friends who are not that are novelist guitar players can pick up on it pretty easily.
Yeah, it's A minor, C, D, F, A minor, E, A minor. That's the whole song.
Okay, then I could play that on the ukulele in 5 minutes. Okay. So a lot of times when I've played with friends or people have asked me to sing with their band or do different, things, House of the Rising Sun always comes up. That and Old Crow Medicine Show. Don't ask me why. Those are the two. It's just the way of the world.
I think I probably told you, my brother-in-law almost was in Old Crow Medicine's show.
I think you did once, maybe. But I don't think you did on the podcast. Yeah,
so he auditioned for Old Crow Medicine Show. My brother-in-law is a virtuoso banjo player. He's a fabulous banjo player. He's really into that Franklin County bluegrass scene type thing. Not my kind of music, but he's known as who you want if that's the kind of stuff you want. And he auditioned for Old Crow Medicine Show. Their banjo player left, and they needed someone. He was recommended to him. He auditioned with them. He got the gig. And then he was just about to get involved in the world of being an Old Crow Medicine Show, and the old banjo player came back. That's what you told me. Okay, now it does ring bells. I don't think you've said it on the thing, but yeah, I remember that you talking about it now. That's kind of sad, though. Yeah, and then apparently, like a few weeks after he got the nod that he didn't have the gig because the banjo player came back, he was watching Late Night with Conan O'Brien, and guess who was on there? Old Crow Medicine Show. Ouch.
We're to add insult to injury, right? Oh, well, that's life. Okay, so the 1970s, Tim, I'll give you one guess, and it's not disco. It's a band you love.
I don't know.
It's your favorite band.
Queen?
It's Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, wow. Well, the thing is, I tune Bohemian Rhapsody out because it's an amazing song, but I'm sick of it.
110%. And there's so many other songs that are better.
I mean, on the same album, Prophet Song is 100 times better than Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm in love with my car. I don't know, Sweet Lady, whatever you want from that album.
And everybody wants to make Bohemian Rhapsody in the song that everybody knows, so we go sing it together. And I'm like, let's not. Yes, I agree with you. Number 2 is, once again, not a shocker, John Lennon's Imagine. Mm-hmm. Number 3 is Joy's favorite, the Bee Gees' Staying Alive.
Well, and that is a great song. Have you seen the video for that recently?
I've seen that video many times, but not recently. Like when they're in, like I could see them coming out. They're like out in the open and they're like in an old building or something.
That's it, yeah. So watch it with fresh and crispy 2022
eyes.
After
this.
You see them with their massive flares
and popping their heads out and stuff.
Tight trousers and like silky clothes. And they're walking through what can only be described as a building site. Yep. And it makes no sense at all. And it's like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Barry Gibb is wearing a red shirt, right? He's got like a red V-neck and like his trousers. And you can see his very 70s bell bottoms. My mom made me watch that a lot as a kid. Okay, now I need to do that because I'm very familiar with what they're doing in that one. All right. Number 4 is an all-time favorite. It's Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. Mm-hmm. Number 5 is one that I can't hear anymore, but I appreciate it because it's iconic, but it goes with Bohemian Rhapsody. It's Hotel California.
Yeah, Hotel California is it's an iconic, amazing song, and it is utterly overplayed.
Tim was so frustrated with it, he punched his mic there for a minute.
Yeah, I did that by accident. I was channeling my inner joy.
I know I haven't knocked the table yet, so
let me just let you into a No Name Musicast production secret. So when we started this podcast, Joy used to whack the table and whack the mic a lot, and I used to spend a lot of time in Studio One, the digital audio workstation I use, going through editing all of these donks out. And then after a while, I thought, whatever, we'll just leave them in.
Eventually I stopped hitting the table as much and it all worked out. But anyway, every once in a while.
Yeah, now and again you still donk it. And it's like, I feel it adds some realism and charm to our broadcast.
Every once in a while, you guys won't catch on, but Tim's chair creaks. And every once in a while, I hear the chair creak. And it's just funny because I'm like, oh, there's the chair.
I can exclusively reveal at some point I am going to buy a new chair because the little gas canister in the bottom of this office chair is starting to leak. So when I come and sit down in this thing, I always have to do the thing to make it pop back up again. And I had an office chair the same once before. And once it starts doing that, it's pretty much game over. So at some point, I'm going to have to buy another office chair. And the other thing is this office chair, you may have seen it. Well, if you've ever been on a Zoom call with me, you've seen some of the videos that I've made on the internet, you'll see this chair is white. And we have a little cat who has like a permanent kennel cough type thing because we adopted him for a shelter. And he has a little bit of a snotty nose.
Oh, Jack.
Yeah, so I'm forever cleaning this chair with Clorox wipes for his snotty deposit. So I'd be happy not to have a chair that's white so I don't see that anymore.
Well, I would suggest I've got a nice gaming chair that's got a little neck rest here, and it is black. So, there's my option. All right. Anyway, so back to the music. Oh, Tim, it's your favorite.
It's that classic era. I launched into that decade at age 6, ready to explore the world.
It is number 6 is Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven.
See, that's in the Hotel California category. That iconic, amazing song, but I don't ever need to hear that again. Can I hear Kashmir instead, or Rain Song, or Bronwar Stomp, or any other Led Zeppelin song except that one? That's
fair. But I mean, to be fair, these songs did kind of develop what the rest of the music looked like for us as a generation. So we appreciate them. We're just saying we would like people to just step out of the realm. All right. Number 7 is Don McLean's American Pie. Mm-hmm. Number 8 is the Beatles' Let It Be. Number 9 is Stevie Wonder's Superstition. And then number 10 is Derek and the Dominos' Layla.
Yeah, interesting fact. Another interesting fact about Layla. Now, it's known as an Eric Clapton, Derek and the Dominos song, but did you know that all of the lead guitar on that track is not played by Eric Clapton?
I think we talked about it briefly, but who plays it?
It's played by Duane Allman from Allman Brothers fame. He did a lot of session work before and during when he was in the Allman Brothers, and I think he was friendly with Eric Clapton, and when they were working through Layla, Eric Clapton at the time was cooler, far cooler than he is now, and recognized the fact that Duane Allman was playing all those parts much better than he was. So he said, well, I'll play the rhythm parts, Duane, and you play all the leads.
At least he was honest with himself. I will say, Layla is a song that I'm very familiar with. It's one of my mother's favorites. And people who don't know this, No Day Music Cast exclusive, Joy is a twin. And my twin sister's name is Brandy. She's named Brandy from the song Brandy, You're a Fine Girl by the Fine Young Looking Glass. I am named Joy, if you haven't picked up on that. There's 2 debates on where my name comes from. One is that my mother watched the show called The Waltons, which is a Southern soap opera, and a baby died on it, and they were going to name Joy, and Mom let the name. Then my dad debates that it's from the song Joy to the World from Three Dogs Night. Mm-hmm. But the other option, the other name that was scuttled out there was Layla from the song Layla. So me and my twin sister are named after music. This is how we came to be.
Fantastic. I used to work with somebody called Layla.
I mean, it's a pretty name. But yeah, that was another one my mom liked, and it's because of the song Layla, and it's one of her favorites. So I've seen that one and heard that one many times in my life. Oh, the 1980s. I give you one guess, Tim, who is the number 1 artist of the 1980s. It's not a trick.
I don't know. I'd like to think it's someone like Donna Summer or something, but it's probably not.
It's Michael Jackson.
Oh, of course. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Thriller, Beat It, Billie Jean.
It's because when you're put on the spot, your brain goes, I don't know, maybe.
Well, because your brain doesn't go to the obvious choices. Because often with these kind of top 10 lists, you're like, oh, really? Wow, I didn't think that.
So the number one song is Billie Jean. The number two song is AKA the stalker song, The Police, Every Breath You Take. So I'm going to give that thing about Ross at questioning if I knew what the song was. So me and Tim work with a coworker, and they did a video. Ross does a lot of our video editing and different things. And what was the Every Breath You Take video for? I don't even remember.
It was for a certain thing that we were rolling out in our organization, where you had to. There was advising to do one thing and not do another thing. So
anyway, a friend of ours, Mike, I won't give his last name because he might not be comfortable with it. It's a fairly good singer and good musician. He was singing Every Breath You Take. Well, Tim is wailing away on the guitar in this video, and there's like a whole elaborate thing. Anyway, I wrote Ross saying, what song is Tim playing? And I did not mean what song is Every Breath You Take by the Police. I just wasn't sure if they just had a video of Tim randomly wailing and lined it up with the song. I didn't, you know what I mean, Tim? I wasn't sure if the video footage was you actually playing Every Breath You Take. So then I got questioned by Ross, asking very sternly, did I not know about stinging the police and Every Breath You Take? And I was like, no, that's not what I meant.
I can tell you that version was recorded in the classic method of recording all the guitar bits first, and then when you come to cut the video, you're playing along to what you've already played. But I did play all those parts, and we had a great morning in our office with a massive green screen up, doing proper work of making a pop video. Just saying.
I mean, I'm not complaining. I just wasn't 100% sure if you had actually like recorded you wailing there with the green screen, or if they just saw another video. You know what I mean? Of you wailing away.
No. We have a lot of integrity when it comes to making a corporate video. I mean, as you know, like our organization that we work for, if you get put on hold, it's a song that I wrote and recorded. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, God help me for questioning that. Anyway, number three is one that I can't stand to hear anymore. I like the song. I just can't stand it. It's Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine.
My brain can never, ever accept any more of that song.
That's the other one that Tim can't hear.
Oh, I've almost played it in every single band I've ever been in since it came out. When it came out, 89 or something like that. But
87.
Yeah, so I've played it in every band I've ever been in, almost ever, give or take. And I've played that song, without exaggeration, thousands of times. I cannot accept it into my brain anymore. If I listen to Appetite for Destruction, it's track 7 or track 8, it has to be skipped. In my iTunes library, I've got every instance of it as skip when shuffling because I just never want to hear it. And when I hear that opening figure on the guitar, I don't know, it's like a dagger in my brain. I just cannot hear it.
And that is the exact way Joy feels about Sweet Home Alabama. So there you go, everybody.
Yeah, Sweet Home Alabama is like slightly underneath that.
No, Sweet Home Alabama is above it for me. And then Sweet Child of Mine is like, and then it's probably Stairway to Heaven. And then actually, no, you know the one that does it for me? Don't Stop Believing, Journey.
Yeah, that was a great song until people decided it was a great song again. And then
why did it resurgence? Where did it come from?
Wasn't it in Glee or High School?
No, I was the one who explained that to you. I know the answer when they brought it back to. I was the one who told this to Tim. Yeah, it became real popular again after Glee made this big thing about Journey. But yeah, I can't. That and I can't hear. Oh, Sweet Caroline.
Bum bum bum.
Everybody loses their mind. All right, I'm just going to run through the rest of the 80s real quick for the sake of time. It's Prince, When Doves Cry, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I Love Rock and Roll. Another one that I'm kind of like, I could do with that. Joan Jett has some great music, though.
Sure.
U2, With or Without You, Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer, Lionel Richie and Diana Ross, Endless Love, Van Halen's Jump, and Michael Jackson's Beat It. You know what's really interesting to me? Between the 70s and the 80s, there was really only one disco song.
It's
I guess Endless Love maybe is disco.
It's a ballad.
Huh.
I wouldn't consider it disco, but you think like 70s is the era that you think of disco, but you would expect there to be, I don't know, Village People or something up there, but no.
It was just the Bee Gees, Staying Alive, which was the year of that movie too. So, that kind of plays into it. It's just very interesting. I guess we don't realize that, yes, there was that big surge of disco, but it was still a subset of people who were really into it. Like my mom was a big disco fan, but my dad wasn't. You know what I mean? And they're both alive during this time. But anyway, it's just really, the more I did that, the more I was like, oh, okay. The 1990s, Tim, once again, it's very obvious who would be number one.
Probably Michael Jackson again.
It's actually Whitney Houston.
Oh, I can get behind that. Whitney.
It is I Will Always Love You. Whitney Houston is number one.
Which is a Dolly Parton song.
Yep. Number two is a band that me and Tim have spoken about that we have mixed feelings about. It is Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Nirvana. It's not music that I particularly enjoy, but people like it. And if you like it, continue to like it.
But it doesn't surprise me that it's up there because it was the height of grunge. It developed a whole age of music, I think, in the 90s and kind of they were the forefront of that, even though they really were only a band for a short amount of time.
Sure. I mean, like Dave Grohl has had Foo Fighters for like 3 times as long as Nirvana ever existed.
And people still think of him as Nirvana, I would imagine. It's still probably an ongoing issue for him. All right. Number 3 is Bryan Adams. Everything I do it for you.
Yeah, that song that was at number 1 in the UK for 15 weeks or 14 weeks or something. I remember the summer that was out. You could not escape that.
And he's still one that Bryan Adams is still one that's played on the radio all the time. Like if you clicked over to 99.1 for us, Tim, it could be a Bryan Adams song at any given time.
Yeah, Cuts really Like a Knife, Summer of 69, Only Thing That Looks Good on Me Is You.
Et cetera, et cetera. I mean, how many times have you heard Those Were the Best Days of Our Life? It was the summer of 69.
Again, another song that I've almost played in every band I've ever been in. I'm not quite as burnt on that as Sweet Child of Mine, but I've played that song enough, so it's nestling near the top. Luckily, the last few bands I've been in have not played it, so it has somewhat fallen off my never want to hear it again list.
I'm not like Bryan Adams for me is a take it or leave it kind of person. Like the music is good, but I don't ever go out of my way to listen to Bryan Adams.
No, but one thing I can confirm about Bryan Adams, in a recent interview, he said he did buy his first real 6-string in the Five and Dime. The Five and Dime store somewhere in Vancouver where he lives. That was confirmed, and he said it was a Les Paul copy.
Well, great, Tim. If that song wasn't stuck in anybody's head, now it officially is. All right. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to run through the next and just kind of hitting the top 3 and then running through the rest. It's Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You, which she had that famous SNL bit, if you've never seen that. Number 5 is Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On. Mm-hmm. Number 6 is Elton John's Candle in the Wind, the 1997 version, the Goodbye England's Rose, all that stuff. Number 7 is R.E.M's Losing My Religion. Number 8 is the British pop famous war thing you guys had going, Oasis Wonderwall. Oh my God, you could have predicted it. Number 9 is the Macarena.
I mean, it's fabulous. And as I've said before in our Christmas episode, for the enthusiasts, the definitive version is the Christmas Macarena, the joy mix. It can be enjoyed at any time of year.
I mean, it was amazing. And number 10 is U2's One.
Yeah, I like some U2. Some U2 is meh. They have great iconic songs, and they have songs that don't really do a great deal for me.
I'm kind of that way too. I kind of struggle with them. I kind of associate them with like, what is that band that? Oh God, the Clock song.
The Clock.
The guy used to date Gwyneth Paltrow. Chris.
Coldplay.
Yeah, like I kind of have that same thing with like the Coldplay bands. Like I associate YouTube in that realm. Like they're okay, and like if they're on, I like them, but I'm not going out of my way to hear them.
Yeah, Coldplay is like U2 light.
That's a great way to say it. I love how I got there. I'm like, that clock song, and he dated Gwyneth Paltrow, and his name was Chris. Which, like, it was like a name that's like I couldn't tell you the actual name, and Tim had to figure it out from there. I don't know. I'm just like, what is the one that there is one U2 song that I really like, and I can't think of the name of it.
With and Without You is amazing.
It's the one where he goes, he does the countdown in Spanish.
Oh,
he
Vertigo.
says, like, yeah, that's probably my favorite U2 song.
I have a particular memory of that song. When we had the jam in West Drayton with Ian and co. There was a guy who came down called Leon, and Leon was a real character. And sadly, Leon's no longer with us, but he was a super amazing character. And I played some gigs with him over the years. And he stood up on the table. I actually have a photograph of this. He stood up on the table in the back room of the Fox and Pheasant. They had Parkan lights up there, and he puts this baking hot Parkan light up to his face, and he goes, all of this can be yours. All of this, just like the lyric in the song. It was hilariously amazing.
Well, at least if he's no longer with you, you have great memories.
I do. I cherish that memory, and the fact I have a picture of that incident as well.
Well, we're going to step out of maybe Tim's knowledge base a little bit here, y'all. We're going out of the 90s into the 2000s.
Okay. I'm strapped in. I'm ready for this.
So the top 10 is, I feel like you're going to know them, though, because they're top 10 songs. Like most of these you generally may know. Number 1 is Outkast's Hey Ya. I feel like you've heard that song.
I've heard that song.
Do you know how to shake it like a Polaroid picture, Tim?
No.
Do you know that's the song? He's like, shake it like a Polaroid. Okay, Tim didn't get the reference, so went right past him. All right. Number 2 is another band I feel like you've heard of. It's the Black Eyed Peas, and it's I Got a Feeling.
I do know that song.
So, Tim, are you feeling that song?
Personally, for me, I prefer Where Is the Love by Black Eyed Peas.
It's a great track. All right. Number 3 is Eminem, Lose Yourself.
I have probably never heard that in my life.
Oh, we lost him on that one. God, I already know I'm going to lose him on this next one. Just say this. Tim's eyes are going to be like blank stare. It's Usher with Lil Wayne and Ludacris. Yeah.
I've never heard that.
I assume, so Lil Jon is the one that's really famous for actually you won't know this. He just comes and raps songs. He goes yeah, okay, on repeat. And that's his whole thing.
I thought Little John was something to do with Robin Hood. I have no idea.
Oh, Lord. I knew this was going to be funny, and I'm not going to torture Tim with the 2010s. We're going to cut off in 2000. But all right. Well, you've at least heard of these artists. It's Beyonce and Jay-Z's Crazy in Love.
I've heard of both of them. I've not heard that song.
It's like you just went under a rock. And the strike. So Tim literally is the person that Prince wrote, we're going to party like it's 1999 for the rest of his life.
Let me just tell you something, Joy. I did a Katy Perry episode about 10 episodes ago,
true.
And there was music from the 20-somethings in there.
I'm giving you a hard time. All right. Number 6 is Gnarls Barkley Crazy.
Yes, that is a good song. I've played that. My friend Kirk has that as a kind of jam band rock song. I've played it with him many times. That is a great song. And the definitive live version of that song is from the MTV MTV Movie Awards, where him and his whole band are dressed up as Star Wars characters.
And hot take for everybody, Gnarls Barkley is not one person.
No, his name is CeeLo Green. Gnarls Barkley is the name of that project or band.
It's a duo. It's CeeLo Dream, and then it's Danger Mouse or something is the other guy's name. But anyway.
Penfold, whatever his name is.
Whatever he goes by. But yes, Gnarls Barkley is not the name of a person. All right. But I mean, to be fair, if you just wrote Gnarls Barkley on paper, I probably would think it was one guy. It doesn't allude to multiple people.
No, isn't that some reference to a basketball player or something?
Oh, well, you got me on that one, Tim. I have no clue.
Is it Charles Barkley was a basketball player? I think it's some reference to that.
Sure.
I think. I could be wrong.
There's somebody literally screaming at us going, no, absolutely not, Tim. We don't know sports either. All right. All right. Beyonce, Single Lady.
I am familiar with that song. I've heard that one.
Oh, God, though. I was a senior in high school when that one came out. And I mean, everywhere, Tim. Everywhere. You could not get away from Single Lady. I wonder if you'll be familiar with this. It's Rihanna with Jay-Z's Umbrella.
I have heard
under
that.
my umbrella, Ella, Ella. You've heard that song, right?
I've heard that because a Swedish band called the Baseballs covered it, and I know it from that.
Such a very distinct reason to know it. And okay, here we go. Here's the song of my high school life. It's Flo Rida and T-Pain, Low.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that one.
If you've ever DJ'd anything, I feel like you have to know that song, right?
I've used that in a disco situation. I've had boots with the fur and everything. I'm aware of that one.
So, question is though, are you like okay? I just have an image of you like DJing at the Moose Lodge in Pulaski, and Low comes on, and it's like a subset of 40 people. Like, I feel like the age range of people at the Moose Lodge aren't getting Low without like breaking a hip.
You would be surprised what copious amounts of alcohol that they've brought in. Because as we said before, at the Moose Lodge, you can buy like wine or wine coolers or beer at the bar. But if you want to bring liquor, hard spirits in, you have to bring it yourself. So people bring these massive bottles of things in. So you imagine, 1 hour into their Moose Lodge evening, they're absolutely smashed. And you stick a bit of a bit of Low on. I tell you, they're getting low. You mix it in with the Cupid Shuffle, and I tell you, it's the best night they've ever had.
Fair enough. All right. Number 10 is Mariah Carey's We Belong Together.
I'm not familiar with that one.
But you at least know who Mariah Carey is.
Yeah,
I'm
of
not
course.
going to go into the whole 2010s, but you will be familiar with the first one. At least we've talked about this person before. It's Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars's Uptown Funk.
Yeah, and I've played that. And in fact, I've even recorded that song. We in the last band I was in, that was a song that was very popular, and we recorded it on our demo. So
I will say, I adore Bruno Mars, and I love Uptown Funk. And Mark Ronson's a great producer, like amazing. He's one of those virtuoso type. I don't know if you know about him, Tim, but he's one of those that's done a little bit of everything, producing music, good musician. Like, just he's famous in the industry as being that person.
sure.
But and I mean, he goes back to playing with Amy Winehouse on Valerie. Like, that's a Mark Ronson produced production. But anyway, I loved Uptown Funk when it came out. I was a dead set, and then I got so burnt on it because it was one of those songs that was like upbeat and happy, and everybody loved it, but it was also clean, so it could be played on every Ellen DeGeneres TV show and commercial. You know what I mean? It was very commercial. You just took out that one part where he says like a word I can't say, hot blank.
Yeah.
It was socially acceptable, right, to play that one everywhere. So it became like, like on Facebook when, oh God, I'm going to insult someone. An older generation does like the memes, and it's always got like the minions on it or something.
Yeah.
It became like that. Like, they could enjoy that. And I think it played on some of those kind of, and Mark Ronson does this very well. It kind of played on those 70. Mark Ronson also did that album with Lady Gaga too, where she did kind of like a country sound. There's like a song called but that's just kind of his thing. But I think it played on like almost like a disco upbeat 70s kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. And so I think it transcended, and I got so burnt out of it and never wanted to hear it again.
Yeah, I mean, I played it a lot in the last band, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I'm not too burned out on it. But I would say one thing though, people loved it. Mm-hmm. When you play, we was asked to put it in our set, and we didn't think it was a song that we could do because it was outside of the realm of the music that we were playing, and we took 2 or 3 practices. We really nailed it, and people loved it.
Well, I will say I can hear it now. Like, if I put on a Bruno Mars selection playlist or whatever, it will come on. I can hear it now. But in the height of Uptown Funk, I was like, never again. I'm done.
Exactly.
But I also see why it sold. Like, it just, you know what I mean? It was, like you said, everybody loved it. It's just one of those songs. I almost feel like it had like almost like a Marvin Gaye kind of thing going for it too.
Yeah, of a fashion. I mean, it had that kind of vibe, I suppose. Exactly.
Which is something that I really like. I like that kind of sound. So for me, I would have been somebody who would have seeked it, whatever that word is.
Sort it out, Joy. You would have sorted out.
That's what Tim said. And with that is the end of our decades. Were there any? I mean, I think they were all pretty obvious, honestly.
Yeah, well, I tell you how I think a good way to close this episode out, and I think this will be perfect, and I will be using yes/no answers for this very last thing. So all your remaining 2010 songs you haven't got to, I want you to read them out to me, and I will be saying yes if I've heard of it, or no if I haven't, and that's where we will leave this episode.
All right. Ed Sheeran's Shape of You.
No.
Adele's Rolling in the Deep.
No.
Pharrell's Happy? Yes. Okay. Oh, God. I can't. Luis Fonsi with Daddy Yankee and Justin Bieber's Despacito.
No.
I knew that was a no. I could hardly even say it. Going to take with Kimbra, Somebody That I Used to Know.
No.
Robin Thicke with T.I. and Pharrell Williams, Blurred Lines.
Yes.
Probably because they got sued. All right. Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Baby.
No.
Adele's Hello.
No.
Lil Nas with Billy Ray Cyrus, Old Town Road.
No.
Well, you didn't miss any. I think on the last one. I hate that song. And that's where I'll leave it.
See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.